movie begins by showing Kunlun. Islands in the middle of Kunlun is a large island known as Medical Island. People from all over the world come for treatment there. Because Kunlun Hospital offers the #1 medical treatment, there is almost no incurable disease except for one, namely the dark spirit. The doctors can only remove the dark spirit from the patient's body, then seal and store it in the dungeon. However, a male doctor named Baizi doesn't want to take out his patient's dark spirit. Over the years, he conducted experiments to find ways to destroy the dark spirits. However, Baizi is a skilled doctor, making him feel great and arrogant. One day, a terrible incident occurred. The dark spirits they were harboring went out of control and came out of the dungeon. The dark spirit then spreads across the island, starts attacking the people. Confidently, Baizi went forward, intending to destroy the dark spirit with his magic spell. Baizi remained determined even though his teacher had warned him. As a result, an even greater disaster occurred. The dark spirit was getting angrier and fiercer at attacking people. Shifu had no choice and was forced to isolate Medical Island with a spell. Shield. After that incident, Shifu, who is also the hospital's chief, expelled Baizi and forbade him to study the dark spirit. 7 years have passed, and the hospital has now been moved to a smaller island, while the chief of the hospital is run by Haozu, who is Baizi's younger brother, while Shifu is away on vacation. Until now, the hospital is still treating the dark spirit patients. It's just that this time they just dumped the dark spirit into the weak river. One day, a patient named Duakushin was infected with the dark spirit. It turns out that the abductor is Baizi because he is secretly doing his experiments. Baizi offered to heal Duo, then he cast his newest spell to destroy the dark spirit. And surprisingly, Baizi's newest spell managed to destroy the dark spirit in Duo's body. Baizi was very happy, but the fun didn't last long because the hospital security chief named Bifang suddenly raided his house. Baizi was accused of stealing patients from the hospital and illegally studying the dark spirit. Bifang then ordered his men to catch Baizi quickly. Baizi tried to escape, and a chase ensued. In his escape, Baizi accidentally meets Haozu, and it turns out they have been working together. Haozu is the one who has been secretly giving Baizi a dark spirit. And he is also the one that told Baizi that Shifu is currently on vacation. In addition, Haozu also said that if he had a way so that Baizi could return to the hospital because he would soon elect a new hospital chief, then Baizi could follow him and show his new findings to everyone. Shortly after that, Baizi visited a bar, but no one was happy with his arrival. All the bar patrons were still angry about the incident that Baizi caused 7 years ago. Suddenly, Baizi was approached by a boy named Yi. He asked Baizi to treat his horns that couldn't grow so that he couldn't use his powers. In the middle of the conversation, a man came to disturb and provoke Baizi, which got them into an argument, but the quarrel was immediately stopped by the female nine-tailed fox and the bar owner. Baizi then said if he couldn't cure Yi's horn, then he suggested Yi look for herbal medicine named Johan, who was on the Forbidden Island, which is the island of the former hospital where the dark spirit was sealed 7 years ago. On the other hand, Haozu went to the hospital elders and suggested holding the election of a new hospital chief. At first, the elders were skeptical of Haozu's idea. Still, gradually Haozu was able to convince them by saying that someone had to take responsibility and protect them if the dark spirit got out of control again. Haozu also firmly believed that there was someone out there who could destroy the dark spirit. Baizi shared his stories with the fox in a different place because he felt he was unfair to Shifa's treatment. After all, He feels that all the problems of the dark spirits are burdened on him. Hearing this, Fox couldn't give any advice, and she could only encourage Baizi so that he could be himself. Apparently, the fox was once saved by Baizi. The next day, the new chief hospital election began when everyone gathered, and the dark spirit was placed in the center of the arena. Anyone who succeeds in destroying the dark spirit will become the new chief hospital, while the judges will be the 4 hospital elders. Unfortunately, none of the participants managed to destroy the dark spirit until Baizi entered the arena. At first, everyone was unhappy with Baizi's arrival, but luckily, Haozu managed to calm them all. Surprisingly, Haozu said that he could destroy the dark spirit with his new spell. Baizi was very surprised because the spell resulted from his hard work, and sure enough, it could destroy the dark spirits. Baizi felt very angry. He then opened his spell flag and showed everyone that he could also do it, but strangely, the spell couldn't be used at all. Baizi just realized that someone had torn off the flag. Bifang then came to arrest Baizi on charges of hiding the dark spirit, and he was thrown into prison. Spell flag. Of course, Baizi refused to give it, and they were forced to use force. Baizi then tried to counterattack using his magnifying shadow magic and finally managed to escape from the prison. But Bifang and his men continued to chase Baizi to the weak river. The fox who saw Baizi being chased gave a little help until finally Baizi managed to cross the weak river and enter the Forbidden Island. Baizi was very carefully exploring every inch of the Forbidden Island. Suddenly he was surprised by Yi's appearance. It turns out that Yi followed his advice to look for medicine at the old hospital. Currently, Yi was looking for a way to get there, but in the middle of their conversation, Bifang and his men appeared at the place. Luckily, the 2 of them still had time to hide and continued their journey together. On the other hand, Haozu tried his spell again but failed. It turned out that he had been deceiving everyone all this time as if he had succeeded in destroying the dark spirit. In fact, he only hid the dark spirit in his spell talisman. Even so, Haozu kept trying to eliminate the dark spirit, but his efforts were in vain. Haozu was increasingly convinced that the real spell was on Baizi's flag. Not long after Baizi and Yi arrived at the stone altar, where there was an argument where Yi wanted to go to the hospital, while Baizi wanted to go to the pier and get out of the island. Baizi warns Yi that the hospital is very dangerous. Without saying much, he invites Yi to the pier. However, they did not find a pier but a very wide expanse of sand. By chance, Baizi met Duo. The 2 followed where Duo went until they finally arrived at a shelter for the dark spirit patients who had been exiled by their families. The place was guarded by an old granny named Madame Fang. Everyone who lived in the place looked very dispirited. Only then did Baizi find out that the cause of the patient's condition was because of the hospital doctor, and Baizi realized that he had been deceiving himself all this time. He tries to comfort the patients while Madame Fang offers to repair Baizi's torn flag by sewing it on. In the cheers, Duo just kept silent. He gets even more desperate when Baizi says he can't cure Duo for now because he is a victim of hospital malpractice. Feeling very desperate, Duo chose to end his life. He is very annoyed at Baizi for giving up so easily and says that he is not a real doctor. Moments later, Bifang reached exile and managed to find the 2 of them. Luckily, they both managed to escape thanks to Baizi's magic spell. After that, they decided to separate, and he would go to the old hospital, whereas Baizi chose to go to the pier. It wasn't long before Baizi found the pier while Yi started to feel something was wrong with where he was. He began to hear strange voices calling him, and suddenly, He saw when he was bullied by his friends for not having the same horn as the other killing races. Besides, he also saw the shadow of his father who was getting away from him. But it turned out that the shadow was not his father, but Baizi who came back to him. Suddenly a dark spirit appeared and immediately attacked Yi. Baizi swiftly rescued Yi, and they fled from the place. Baizi feels pity and decides to find a cure for Yi. Finally, they decided to visit the old pharmacy, but unfortunately, the place was in ruins and falling apart. Even so, Baizi kept trying and finally managed to find a cure. He immediately tried to treat Yi's horn, but unfortunately, the medicine didn't work at all, and he was very disappointed. Meanwhile, the fox that followed Baizi got to the Forbidden Island. She met with Bifang and his men, and they got into a fight. In the middle of the fight, a dark spirit suddenly appeared, and the fox then took this opportunity to escape from Bifang. Haozu was getting more nervous in a different place because he didn't get Baizi's flag. Meanwhile, Baizi encourages Yi and says he will find another way to treat him. While sleeping, Baizi accidentally entered Yi's subconscious, where he saw Yi being bullied by his friends because he was different. It was this trauma that slowly made the dark spirit grow within Yi. Baizi was so shocked that he woke up but didn't see Yi. He then looked for Yi, and to his surprise, he saw a view of the bamboo forest on the island. Not far from where he was, he also found a house, and it turned out that he was also in that house. He said that he had found a doctor who could cure him. Of course, Baizi didn't believe it until suddenly a radish demon appeared before him. It turned out that the owner of the house was Radish. When he heard the name Baizi, the radish demon immediately recognized him. He also claimed to be Baizi's younger brother, but Baizi didn't immediately believe the radish demon's words. He then dragged the radish demon out and interrogated him. Baizi indeed suspects that the radish demon can't cure Yi's horn because Yi's horn is not a disease but a rare disorder. Hearing that, he felt very desperate, and slowly his body was possessed by the dark spirit. But the problem didn't stop there. Bifang came asking Baizi to turn himself in. Of course, Baizi refused, and a battle ensued. In the battle, Baizi only found out that their Shifu had died due to exhaustion when sealing the dark spirit 7 years ago. It turned out that what had happened so far was not what Baizi thought. Shifu was the one who felt the most guilty for what had happened, so he started planting bamboo trees on the island in the hope that one day he could revive the island. In addition, Shifu also believes that one day Baizi can destroy the dark spirit because he has light in his heart. Without realizing it, Shifu really loves Baizi. Knowing this fact made Baizi very sad and felt very sorry. Baizi finally gave himself up after being threatened by Bifang using Yi. Apparently, Bifang hates Baizi because the incident 7 years ago made him lose one of his hands. Bifang mercilessly plunged Baizi into the weak river. When he reached the bottom of the river, a group of the dark spirits immediately swarmed him, but luckily, Baizi was rescued by the radish and fox demon. Meanwhile, in a different place in front of everyone, Haozu was getting ready to destroy all the dark spirits in the weak river using Baizi's flag. Suddenly Baizi comes and warns Haozu that dark spirit can't be destroyed with that spell. Then, he also tells everyone that the dark spirit hides inside Haozu's spell talisman. Hearing that made Haozu and everyone else in the place panic. Haozu then said that Baizi was a liar. But suddenly, what Baizi said was proven because the dark spirit started to come out of Haozu's charm talisman and attack everyone in the place. Baizi quickly instructed everyone to take cover. The dark spirit then began to possess Haozu and made him very evil. Haozu bravely attacked anyone in his path, and even Bifang did not escape his attacks. Luckily, Baizi came to save him and then asked everyone to leave because he would face Haozu alone. Baizi tried to resuscitate Haozu, but Haozu just got worse because of his hatred for Baizi, and this made him stronger. It turned out that since childhood, Haozu was very jealous of Baizi because he thought that Shifu loved him more. His hatred peaked when Shifu gave his flag to Baizi, and he felt that his hard work had never been considered by him. That's why Haozu really wanted to beat Baizi just once. Meanwhile, everyone started to gather in one place, and the hospital elders started to make shields to protect them all. On the other hand, Yi's body was getting weaker. Baizi asked Haozu to stop his actions, but unfortunately, his request was not heeded at all. It seems the dark spirit has completely swallowed Haozu. Haozu repeatedly attacked the shield until it was finally destroyed. Everyone had no other choice but to jointly attack him. Unfortunately, their strength is no match for the dark spirit. Baizi then rushed to grab his flag and tried to pull Yi out of the dark spirit's body. Again Yi saw his father's shadow leaving him, but this time Baizi suddenly appeared and asked Yi to meet his father's shadow. Baizi said that Yi was the only brave child he had ever met, and immediately Yi realized that his father had died. Then loudly, he said that now he had grown into a brave child. Tears fell as his father hugged Yi. A moment later, Baizi managed to bring Yi out of the dark spirit. Unexpectedly, he was able to use his power. Then he helped Baizi defeat the dark spirit. But the dark spirit's power was so strong that Baizi's flag shattered into pieces. While everyone was hopeless, Baizi still had faith that a ray of light in their hearts could defeat the dark spirit. As he said that, thousands of glowing butterflies sprang up and charged directly at the dark spirit. Baizi then attacked, but suddenly, he entered Haozu's subconscious. There he saw the butterfly eliminating the dark spirit, and Baizi also saw Haozu. He then invited Haozu to come back together. The scene then changes. Some time has passed, and everyone looks happy and works together to repair a city that has been destroyed. Now there is no more dark spirit in everyone's heart. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that no matter how bad other people do to us, in the end, if we respond with kindness, it will end up with goodness for both parties.